The conflict in Ukraine continues to be one of the most pressing and devastating geopolitical events of our time. As the war grinds on, international efforts to find a resolution persist, amidst differing visions for what peace might look like. Today, we turn our attention to a specific reported stance from a major figure in global politics, Donald J. Trump, and his stated desire for a permanent ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. What does this position signify? What are the potential implications, and why might this seemingly simple idea be far more complex, and even potentially perilous, than it appears on the surface? Let's uncover the layers. Donald Trump's views on Russia and Ukraine have long been a subject of intense scrutiny and debate. During his presidency, his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin was closely watched, and he often expressed skepticism regarding NATO and long-standing alliances. This perspective sometimes contrasted sharply with traditional U.S. foreign policy. Famously, his interactions with Ukraine were central to his first impeachment, revolving around allegations of pressuring the Ukrainian government for political gain. In the context of the ongoing conflict, reports have emerged, attributed to statements from the White House or those close to Donald Trump, indicating his desire for a permanent ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. This isn't a new idea in general, but when voiced by a figure of Trump's potential political influence, it carries significant weight and warrants careful examination. The simplicity of the phrase, permanent ceasefire, can be misleading. In the context of an active conflict with territorial disputes, such a ceasefire would likely freeze the front lines, effectively halting military action but potentially solidifying control over currently occupied territory. The implications of such a permanent ceasefire, particularly one initiated under pressure or without the full agreement of both sides under equitable terms, are vast and deeply concerning for many. For Ukraine, a permanent ceasefire based on current front lines would mean ceding significant portions of its internationally recognized territory, including Crimea and large areas in the Donbass and southern regions, to Russian control. This would fundamentally compromise Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, the very principles they have been fighting to defend. For Ukraine, their stated objective remains the full restoration of their territorial integrity within their 1991 borders. A ceasefire that falls short of this would be viewed by many Ukrainians as a betrayal of their sacrifices and a failure to achieve a just peace. It could lead to significant internal dissent within Ukraine and would leave them vulnerable to future Russian aggression if the underlying issues are not resolved. From Russia's perspective, a permanent ceasefire along current lines would represent a significant strategic victory. It would effectively legitimize their territorial gains, allowing them to consolidate control over occupied regions and present the outcome as a successful, special military operation. A ceasefire would also provide Russia with an opportunity to regroup and rearm without the pressure of active combat, potentially setting the stage for future aggression. Russia's objectives in this conflict have consistently been viewed by many as seeking to undermine Ukrainian sovereignty and prevent its alignment with Western powers. A ceasefire on terms favorable to Russia would significantly advance beyond the immediate combatants. A permanent ceasefire on these terms would have profound implications for international relations and global security. For NATO and European security, it could be seen as a sign that aggression can be rewarded with territorial gains, potentially emboldening other revisionist powers. It would raise serious questions about the credibility of security guarantees and the effectiveness of international law in protecting sovereign nations. Furthermore, a frozen conflict, while seemingly ending the immediate bloodshed, often carries the risk of reigniting later. Without a comprehensive peace agreement that addresses the root causes of the conflict and provides lasting security guarantees for Ukraine, a ceasefire could simply be a pause before renewed hostilities, potentially on even more unfavorable terms for Ukraine. Reactions to the idea of a permanent ceasefire on potentially unfavorable terms for Ukraine have been varied and often sharply critical, particularly from Ukraine and its Western allies. Ukrainian officials have consistently rejected proposals that would involve ceding territory. NATO allies have emphasized the importance of supporting Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Critics of Trump's foreign policy often view such a proposal as potentially undermining democratic values and rewarding authoritarian aggression. Supporters of a rapid ceasefire, however, often emphasize the immediate cessation of violence and the prevention of further loss of life. Some may argue that achieving a complete Russian withdrawal is unrealistic through military means and that a ceasefire, even on difficult terms, is the most pragmatic path to ending the Analyzing the feasibility and potential consequences of implementing such a ceasefire reveals the significant challenges involved. Without a willingness from both sides to negotiate in good faith and make concessions, and without robust international guarantees, a permanent ceasefire risks becoming merely a temporary halt in hostilities that disadvantages Ukraine and destabilizes the region further. In conclusion, Donald Trump's reported desire for a permanent ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine is a statement with significant weight and complex implications. While the idea of ending violence is universally appealing, the terms under which such a ceasefire is achieved are critical. For Ukraine, it could mean a loss of territory and sovereignty. For Russia, it could mean the legitimization of gains and an opportunity to prepare for the future. For the world, it raises questions about international norms and the future of security. This is not simply a call for peace, but a proposal with potentially far-reaching and contentious consequences. Understanding the nuances and potential outcomes of such proposals is essential as the international community continues to grapple with the future of this devastating conflict. Thank you for joining us on Uncovered Crimes for this deep dive into a complex geopolitical issue. What are your thoughts on the potential implications of a permanent ceasefire in Ukraine? Share your perspective in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please like this video and subscribe to Uncovered Crimes for more explorations of complex events and their hidden impacts. Until next time,